Nanking, or as it's now called, Nanjing, is a city steeped in over 1,000 years of history. But beneath the surface of modern skyscrapers and bustling streets lies a haunting memory. This is not just the story of a massacre. It's the story of a capital under siege, a city betrayed by the world, and a wound that history refuses to let heal. Welcome to History Mode, where we dive deep into the turning points of our past. Today we're stepping into one of the darkest moments of the 20th century, the Nanking Massacre. To understand what happened in Nanking, we have to step back to the 1930s. Japan had already invaded Manchuria in 1931, setting the stage for a full-scale war with China. By 1937, tensions erupted into the Second Sino-Japanese War. Japan's military, confident and ruthless, was determined to conquer all of China. In July, fighting broke out near Beijing. By August, Shanghai was under siege. The battles were brutal. Chinese forces resisted fiercely, but the Japanese pushed forward with overwhelming force. After taking Shanghai, the next target was clear: Nanking, China's capital at the time. While Chiang Kai-shek's government fled to Chongqing, many soldiers and civilians were left behind. The Chinese command declared they would defend the city, but it was underprepared, outnumbered, and poorly coordinated. And the Japanese army was approaching, not just with guns, but with a plan to make an example of Nanking. What followed wasn't just a military occupation. It was systematic, state-sanctioned savagery. Over the course of 6 weeks, somewhere between 200,000 to 300,000 civilians and prisoners of war were killed. It wasn't just mass shootings, it was torture, decapitations, children murdered in front of their parents, families wiped out street by street. The Japanese troops conducted what were called killing contests, literally competing to see who could kill more people with a sword. Tens of thousands of women were raped, some as young as 8, some as old as 80. Many were then mutilated or murdered to destroy evidence or silence witnesses. And this wasn't the work of a few rogue soldiers. It was widespread, organized, and allowed to continue without consequence. Bodies clogged rivers. The Yangtze turned red. Entire neighborhoods became charnel houses. One survivor later said, "They killed my brother, then forced my sister to watch. Then they took her away." Amid this nightmare, a small group of foreigners stayed behind. Missionaries, doctors, and businessmen, many of whom had every reason to leave, but they didn't. Instead, they created a safety zone, an area in the center of the city intended to shelter civilians from the slaughter. At the head of this effort was a surprising figure, John Rabe, a German businessman and a member of the Nazi Party. But unlike many in power, Rabe used his position to try and stop the killing. He wrote letters to the Japanese embassy. He raised Nazi flags above refugee camps, hoping to scare off attackers. And he documented the horror in a diary that still survives today. He was joined by people like Minnie Vautrin, an American missionary who protected thousands of women inside her college campus. She patrolled the gates, chased off soldiers, and at times stood alone against armed men. Her diary reveals not only courage, but unimaginable trauma. She later wrote, "There are no words to describe the suffering we saw. If hell has a name, it is Nanking." By late January 1938, the worst of the violence had subsided. Not because of international pressure, but because the Japanese army had exhausted the city. The world knew. Western journalists had snuck out photos and testimonies. But in the shadow of rising fascism in Europe, China's cries were drowned out. After the war ended in 1945, some justice came. The International Military Tribunal for the Far East and the Nanjing War Crimes Tribunal tried and convicted several Japanese officers, including General Matsui Iwane. But many high-ranking officials, including Emperor Hirohito, were never held accountable. To this day, official acknowledgement of the massacre remains a sensitive issue in Japan, where some politicians continue to downplay or deny it. Today, Nanjing is a symbol of both tragedy and resilience. The Nanking Massacre Memorial Hall stands as one of the most powerful memorials in Asia, a place of silence, reflection, and testimony. Each year on December 13th, sirens sound across the city to remember the victims. For China, the memory of Nanking has become central to national identity, a reminder of past humiliation and the importance of national unity and strength. But the lesson of Nanking isn't just for China. It's a global story. It shows what happens when unchecked militarism, dehumanization, and silence combine. It's a lesson in how fast the world can look away, and how long it takes to heal from history's darkest days. The tragedy of Nanking was not an accident. It was a decision made by those in power, carried out by men who chose cruelty, and ignored by a world that knew better. But memory is resistance, and history, when told truthfully, has the power to fight back. This has been History Mode. If this story moved you, share it. Let's make sure the world never forgets Nanking and never repeats it. Subscribe for more powerful stories from the past that still shape our present. We're just getting started.